Hi Internet! Today we'll learn a bit about MIXAP's activity and learning path types. Back in MIXAP, when you start to create activities, MIXAP is asking which type you want to create. Augmented activities are the most basic type. You use any physical image or visual structure and add some virtual content to it. Whatever you upload or take as photo during this step will be used by MIXAP to know when to add your virtual content to the screen. So ideally, whatever image you use, it shouldn't change between the moment you upload it and when your students play the activity. So it could be tempting to take photos of buildings, statues and other landmarks. But it's highly likely that the day you come with your students, lighting has changed a lot, shadows are not the same, and students would need to hold the tablets at the exact same angle as you did when taking the picture. So better use flat images on support that doesn't have reflections, for example. When you take a picture or upload it, MIXAP will give you a hint if your image is a good one for its algorithm with a 5-star rating. As a rule of thumb, you should use pictures that are little but not too complex. Text is always a bad idea because it's super detailed and regular. The MIXAP algorithm loves a little chaos, but not too much. Your tablet's camera has only a certain resolution, so to make sure the algorithm recognizes your marker when you print it or stand in front of the real thing, super detailed images should be avoided because the algorithm might decide that a tiny feature is important and your students will have to stand super close for this little feature to get recognized and trigger the augmentation. On a side note, MIXAP only sees grayscales, so no problem if you upload what we call a colored marker and then print in grayscales, since that's how MIXAP works anyways. Once you have a nice marker, you can add the virtual elements. The virtual content is the same for all activity types, except the Ask the AI activity. You can add text, images, 3D objects, audio, video, some stickers, links, or AI-generated voice, text, and images. Then you should always test your activity in real conditions before giving it to students. You don't want to be technical support and teacher at the same time. Teaching is already demanding enough. Great, we have our first activity. Let's create some more. The search and find activity lets you enter a description of a market that students have to find on their own. In the augmented activity that we just saw before, students have a little image while doing the activity, indicating what should be scanned. This is not the case for search and find, since you want the students to find the marker. This type of activity can be used, for example, in language learning activities. You could, for example, print out a lot of cards with animals and create activities asking, for example, to find el gato, which is Spanish for cat, and purely by chance what the icon shows. Pair association is quite similar, but asks the user to combine two physical images at the same time. Then we have the information layer activity. That basically allows you to have multiple virtual elements in layers that the user can turn on and off for one physical element. The prime example for this is an activity to discover the human body, being composed of many different systems: nervous system, muscle system, and so on. Finally, Ask the AI allows the students to use different cards and content that they then can combine. For example, you can use a world map with different question cards, and the students can then point at a country and put the question card next to it. The AI will then answer the question. This is still very much under development, so I wouldn't rely on the replies being always 100% accurate. So you might ask, with all these activities, do I have to share them one by one? No, you can combine them in learning paths. These are basically just containers for activities, and there are 3 types of them. The free exploration path allows the user to pick whatever activity they want to start with. The auto-triggered path launches the activity whenever one of the markers is in front of the tablet. So say you have an augmented activity with a frog and another with a cat. When the user points their device at either one of them, the correct augmentation will show. Very useful, for example, during museum visits, so your students don't have to launch the activities by themselves. Naturally, the auto-triggered path doesn't work with pair association or search and find activities, since that would defy the purpose of these activities. Finally, you have the guided path that places one activity after another. You define the order in which these activities are played. Perfect! Now you know about MIXAP's activities and learning paths. We'll go a little further in depth on content creation in another tutorial. Until then, take care and see you around.